welcome to Thrilling Thursday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga, and we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. And we're going to get going today with Lesson 4 of A Witch's Primer Revisited. Moderating today on YouTube are the lovely Jennifer and the lovely Diane. Moderating on Twitch is the lovely Honeypaw. Thank you so much, moderators, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I really appreciate you being here. I hope you're enjoying our jaunt back through A Witch's Primer. It's a lot of fun for me. We are, what was I going to say? Oh, we have a Discord server and we have a private Facebook group. So if you need some more support, you have questions, you want to be part of the discussions or the communities, feel free to join those groups. You can find the links to all of our social media in the footer of every page on our website, arielscorner.com, arielscorner.com. Now, if you aren't already registered for A Witch's Primer, you can register at arielgatoga.com/AWP, arielgatoga.com/AWP, and that gives you a nice little lesson guide and some handouts. And remember, too, that these are adjuncts. There's already some lecture recordings for each of these lessons up already. So, but just if you go ahead and it's free, there's nothing to pay for. But if you register for the course, then you'll also get access to the handouts. Gosh, my brain today. It's really raining a lot where I am right now, and we have a lot of floods. So it's those ions change, and so sometimes we get a little bit of a response to our environment mentally, and that's me today. All right, let's see. We do have a premiere. I got to get going because we got a premiere at 11. So if you're around at 11, please join us. We better get going right now so we don't go over. If you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat thread. If I have time, I will get to them. If not, bring those questions on over to Discord or Facebook. Here we go. If you're in a place where it is safe and appropriate, please close your eyes and take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering the body and the mind. With every exhale, feel like you're able to let go of all tension from the body, along with anything you do not want from your mind. Inhaling peace and light, and exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this light is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily and efficiently burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and God. Into this space, we also invite the presence of our guides, our angels, our teachers. We ask that we be guided as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more gentle, and more loving people. Thank you very much. Blessed be. I did have a question about, well, it wasn't really a question. I think they were being snarky, but that's okay. It was a good thing. They said something to the effect of, the word witch didn't even show up in the English language until the 17th century or something like that. And I tried to point them back to the origin of that word, which was actually the first instance of the origin of that word that we're aware of is in the 1st century. But they didn't understand, and they started to argue. But I think the reason why it's a good thing to talk about really quickly before we get into our lesson is that you don't have to use the word witch. You don't have to use the word witch. There's nothing special about that word. I use it just because that's what I've always called myself, and I define my craft based on that. But there is a lot of baggage with that word. And if you want to let go of that word and call yourself something else, that's fine. It doesn't matter. The craft is the craft no matter what you call it. So you're not required to use that word or not use that word. It's fine. Everything's good. Today, I'd like to talk about the witch's trance. So we need to explore this idea of magical states of consciousness and how they do relate to the craft, how they do relate to magic and witchcraft. In our everyday waking state, most of us have a very limited access to the powers of our minds. And this deep mind is where the magic happens. Now, during sleep, everybody unlocks the gateway to a different world. And that's where dreams transport us to realms beyond the waking reality. Some experts interpret dreams as being brain functions or therapeutic processes that our minds are going through. But for most witches, the dream world holds profound significance as its own separate reality. When practicing magic or connecting with spirits, gods, goddesses, elementals, etc., we must transcend the boundaries of ordinary states of consciousness and enter into a different frequency of being. And to access these mystical, magical frequencies, we undergo a training so that we are able to enter a magical trance, going within ourselves at will. And there are many techniques that people use to go into these trance type states. Sometimes it's called going into the silence or parting the veils. But it is in this deep mind that the magic works and happens, not in the surface mind. So when we explore these deeper states of consciousness, we unlock all of those hidden potentials within ourselves. And that's where we can connect to the vast energies that make our magic potent. Magic is a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration, where we can unveil the secrets of the universe and harness the transformative power to create positive changes in our lives and in our world. And we do that very frequently within the context of a magical trance. This witch's trance, magical trance, is similar to the techniques used by hypnotherapists who have a way of working that seems almost like magic. In witchcraft, we learn to access the deep mind at will. And once we can do that and master these different states of awareness and consciousness, we train ourselves to not only work magic, but explore different planes on the astral and travel not only within this world, but into other dimensions, other lifetimes, other times. As we explore these deep realms, we unlock the extraordinary potential that exists within our own minds. And it's through focused intention in this heightened awareness that we tap into those vast cosmic energies that surround us so that we can work our magic effectively. If you're working in the astral planes, although it's, when you're working in the astral planes, you encounter different landscapes and beings from other dimensions. And we talk about this more intensely in my course on astral projection. But we, by doing that, recognize that there's an interconnectedness to all things. And that's one of the great truths that we viscerally start to understand as we go into this type of trance work. Like I said before, hypnotherapy and magic are different in approach, but both of them are tapping into the profound power of the mind. By dedicating ourselves and practicing these states of consciousness, we can really unlock all of those hidden potentials and start to work our magic in a way that gives us results, and we feel the results We see the results, and we no longer have to work our magic on blind faith. We start to actually have that faith that is based on experience rather than just belief. We will be talking more in later lessons about communicating with the spirit world and the concept of spirit guides and spirit mentors who can guide us on our spiritual journey. And those guides share wisdom and provide really valuable insights and information and guidance. But even within that, you can't access those guides until you've learned to access the depths of your mind, to start to lower the veil of your conscious mind and recognize that the conscious mind, our waking consciousness, day-to-day waking consciousness, is very limited, and it actually hides the bulk of who we are and what our power is. Direct experience is much more important than podcasts or books or lectures. Reading and learning is good, but and it helps us to broaden our vocabulary and we can understand certain concepts intellectually, helps us to discuss things because we have a common vocabulary that we can establish, and that's wonderful. But it's through our direct experience with magic and with the spirit world that we learn. All of the work that books or lectures or classes or discussions online, all that can do is point us in a direction. But we must experience things firsthand in order to learn them. And that's why most of what we do in A Witch's Primer deals with a lot of practical work rather than just theory. But we have to start out with some theory. Otherwise, it's hard for the mind to be able to wrap itself around what we're talking about. Many people will approach me to discuss different books about witchcraft or metaphysics or the occult, and they are those books are good. I like them. I like books, but my reading preferences usually gravitate toward the exploration of mythology, fairy tales, archetypes, psychology, especially Jung, and expanding our understanding of the symbols and the language so that I can understand my magic better, rather than only talking about what other witches do for their spells and what other witches do for the sabbats and what other witches do for this or for that. Those are interesting and I like them, and I'm not knocking witch books. It's just that I don't find them to be as helpful to me as far as enriching my craft as some non-craft books like I've just discussed. And I don't discourage reading craft literature and books on magic. Exploring the craft like that has wonderful potential, and it can really give you some insights. And so it's a good thing. But delving into ancient pantheons like the Egyptians and the ancient Celts and their mythologies, the Greeks, cultural understandings of what those gods and goddesses mean so that we can understand the archetypes better, understanding how those ancients dealt with the different planets and how those planets turned into gods and goddesses. To me, that's more interesting than reading another spell book. So, back to magic. The significance of entering a deep trance during your magical practice cannot be overstated. Maintaining a heightened state of consciousness and unwavering focus is crucial in the magical arts. Yet many aspiring magicians and witches struggle to reach the deep states of consciousness necessary to access their power because they get distracted so easily. To master the art of magic, you must train your mind to effortlessly enter into those deep states of consciousness at will while staying focused. Grounding and centering exercises like what we learned in the beginning here are essential foundations for this. And then from there, we can move farther. There are so many various methods that you can use to induce a magical trance. There are things like rhythmic activities, such as drumming or dancing. The key is to perform these actions consciously with heightened awareness and focused attention, and not allow your mind to start to wander. I want to talk today about an exercise that I call the orb of light. This exercise helps you to access your deep mind and strengthen your aura both at the same time. And this is accomplished by visualizing a radiant globe of light. With practice, you will gain the ability to perform this exercise independently very quickly, and allowing yourself to enter into that deep state, that trance state, in a feeling of a protected space at will, very quickly. I have a recording of the orb of light that's attached to this lesson. And it's something that you may want to work with at least a few times. And then pretty soon you shouldn't need the recording. You can establish it all on your own. Remember too, discussed in lesson one, spiritual purification is a very powerful process that strengthens and purifies your aura, which is the energetic field around you. And by practicing these things, you, over time, really create a protective and purified aura. You establish that and you reinforce that. And some worry when we start to talk in future lessons about the dangers of the spirit world. And I found that the physical world is much more dangerous than the spirit world. Because in the spirit world, there's nothing that you don't have a body. And you don't have a body to get harmed or lose. In the physical world, you can hurt yourself. In the spirit world, not so much. But that doesn't mean that you don't want to be protected, that you don't want to have a strong sense of self when you're doing work in the spirit world. And that's one of the reasons why things like spiritual purification, grounding and centering, and now this orb of light meditation are helpful and important, so that when you do start working in the spirit world, which is so important in witchcraft, that you are reinforced, you are safe, you are protected, and you can maintain your focus and not get distracted. The spirit world has so many different planes with so many different unique characteristics and frequencies, just like in the physical world. When your spiritual energy aligns harmoniously with a specific plane, you attract that plane to yourself. You automatically go there. And you notice that the type of spirits and spiritual vibrations that exist in that plane they are harmonious to that environment. It's very much like different neighborhoods have different inhabitants. Some neighborhoods feel scary and sketchy, and some neighborhoods feel opulent, and some neighborhoods feel friendly and pretty, and some neighborhoods feel safe. Same thing is true on the astral plane. So if you can achieve a magical state of consciousness while staying present in your ritual space and keeping your aura strong and clear, then it's advantageous to you magically, because then you are at one with your magical power, and you are much more likely to have success in your magical workings than if you aren't able to establish and maintain those magical states, or if your mind wanders, or if your aura is weak, or if your mind feels as though you're vulnerable and unsafe. So, as part of this process that I'm discussing with the orb of light, you're able to use that as a powerful technique to not only strengthen your aura, but you can view that orb itself as a vehicle for traveling if you are wanting to travel on this astral plane or many of the astral planes. It's a comfortable and accessible vehicle. And it's a lot more comfortable than riding on a broomstick, if you ask me. Think about Glinda the Good Witch. She always came in on her little orb of light, and she left on her orb of light. And I kind of sometimes wonder if the makers of the Wizard of Oz, I think that was only in the film. I can't remember if that orb of light was part of the original book or not. But I always wondered if they weren't sort of hip to the true craft. Sometimes it wasn't only that. There's a lot of different little images in that movie that jive with the craft as I understand it. But it's undeniable that orb of light that Glinda uses, how it looks, how it feels, and the function that it serves, and the function that it serves, it's very similar to what we do. It's important to recognize that when you go into a trance is one thing, but it's also how to come out of that trance that's important. When you're done with your magic, it's important to return purposefully to your physical, what we might call ordinary existence. Visualize yourself emerging, stamp the ground, clap your hands, disperse any lingering energy. Make sure that you see that orb of light dispersed. Clearly communicate to your mind that this is the end of this particular magical practice. This way, you stay focused and effective. While in your trance, you want to fully embrace it, but when you come out of your trance, you want to sever the ties to that trance. It's not, some people talk about it being dangerous if you don't completely come out of the trance. It's not that it's dangerous. It's just sloppy. It's just lackluster. You don't establish clear delineations in your mind about when you're in one state of consciousness versus the other state of consciousness, and it can rob your power to be effective. That's all. Now, daily meditation is so helpful for anybody who's walking on a path of awakening and spiritual transformation, whether it's a magical path or not. But it's especially powerful for witches and people that walk a magical path. Through meditation, regular meditation, we balance and direct all of the forces in a very positive way. And that helps us to create those profound changes in our lives that we desire and to maintain those changes once we've established them. By dedicating ourselves to some sort of daily meditational practice, we establish a strong foundation and stay centered in our spiritual, magical purpose. This regular daily practice allows us to connect with spiritual mentors, gain valuable insight about our lives, our purpose, and our place in the world. It makes it easier for us to be taught, guided, and directed by higher energies. And daily meditation empowers us to make a positive impact on the world around us, not only for our personal goals, but for the benefit of everybody that knows us. Instead of drifting through life, meditation offers us a clearer perspective, revealing our true nature and our true purpose and function here. Regardless of your spiritual or magical path, meditation is a powerful tool for discovering your true will and your true purpose. By diving deeply within ourselves and embracing these deeper parts of ourselves and these magical states of consciousness regularly, we open ourselves up to not only personal awareness, but spiritual awareness, soul awareness, and definitely magical awareness. And this regular deep practice encourages us to have a conscious connection to the spirit world, allowing us to, like I said, receive guidance and wisdom beyond our normal, ordinary perceptions of the world. So I encourage you to embrace this idea of daily meditation and learning how to do this trance. It expands your abilities exponentially, and trying to work magic without it is not as well, it's not very effective at all, in my opinion. It's not the same at all. Just doing some ritual gestures here and there don't have the same impact as if you're doing those ritual gestures in a deepened state. If you haven't yet started working on regular grounding and centering, I would recommend that you don't do the orb of light until you've started that, at least for a week or so. Just get that going first. There's no rush here. But once you've started doing that, then start working on that orb of light, because the more frequently you do it, the more quickly you can enter and exit that state. Now, if you don't like the orb of light and you have some other technique that you want to use for this, fine. That's fine. There's no rule that says you have to do it my way. It's just that I find that the orb of light is a very effective and valuable tool, and I use it in several of my courses, and I use it in different ways in my courses. It's also important for you to focus on those daily spiritual purification things, purification tools that we gave you in week 1, plus your food consecration. That's something that's meant to be done always. Now, you don't have to do all the spiritual purification exercises every day, obviously. Just one. Just take one and do it. Maybe take the bath, or you can use a spiritual shower. Maybe you're going to do fire meditation one day. Whatever it is, just working with the elements, doing spiritual purification, consecrating your food, grounding and centering. That's a basic practice right there. But then when you start adding that orb of light and that trance work, then you're starting to get into a deeper understanding of connecting with the powers that actually are potent to make changes in your life. So also, now's a good time to start, if you haven't yet, gathering your tools. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be expensive. Little tools are fine. Humble tools are fine. A simple stick can serve as a wand. You could use a chopstick if you wanted for a wand. We've talked about all that. A kitchen knife or a letter opener for an athame. A goblet can be a chalice. A placemat could be your altar cloth. Candles, stones, crystals, feathers can represent the elements. You can use spray perfumes if you don't like incense. There's all kinds of things you can do. It's just doing them purposefully and consciously and understanding, oh, I get it. I like the word witch, but if you don't like the word witch, use something else. I'm a witch. I have a practice. I have a craft. I have tools, and I can make things happen. And I'm learning how to make things happen. I'm learning how to make things happen by understanding how to create ritual. And I'm also learning how to make things happen by accessing the deeper parts of my mind. Cleansing, purifying, and strengthening my aura. Right? So these are daily practices that strengthen you and your power over time. Just kind of like going to the gym makes you have a stronger body over time. Now, I want to mention one thing about your altar, and that's water. Water has a very special ability to attract and hold spiritual energy. Using fresh water on your altar is symbolic, but it's also powerful. The positive energy that you cultivate will be absorbed by the water, making it a potent tool for rituals and blessings. After a ceremony or a meditation or a spell, you can sprinkle that water in your home or pour it over your threshold while stating an intention. Use that water, but also don't keep the same water going day after day after day. If you put a cup of water or a bowl of water to represent the element of water on your altar, either just in passing or during a ritual, make sure you understand that water has absorbed a lot of energy. And so you want to make sure that you replace that with some fresh water, but also to use that water if it's been a specific kind of spell for something. Like I said, as a wash, as a sprinkle, right? Or if it's been a banishing, you recognize that maybe that problem has gotten sucked into that water and you can just go toss it down the drain, right? So that's something that I do like to mention because I think I forgot to talk about it when we were talking about the altar and tools. All right, that's it on the lesson on the magical trance. It's something that you can just start with little by little. There's no rush. My mantra with the craft and magic is slowly is holy. So get started on your basics. And if you are grounding and centering already and you're doing your spiritual purifications already, then now is the time to start learning how to perform a witch's trance. And I like the use of that orb of light. It's a wonderful tool, and you may like it too. And you may want to learn how to build that orb at will, quickly and easily. And the way you do that, you can start with listening to the recording of the meditation, and then doing it on your own. If you don't need to listen to the recordings, you can just do it on your own. And the more you do it, the faster and more efficient you get at it, and the deeper your trance states become. And pretty soon, you don't need people like me telling you what to do. Not that I'm telling you what to do, but teaching you things. You won't need people like me teaching you things. You won't need books. You won't need to ask. You'll be right there. You'll learn it straight from your guides. You'll learn it straight from source. And so that's another reason why these trance states are so helpful, is because you learn much more quickly, and you learn by experience, and you know what works because it works, and you know it's theory if it doesn't really work. And so now you're starting to understand that this is where the rubber meets the road. It's your deep mind that does all the magic. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Until next time, blessed be. Oh, we got through that without too much time. Okay, here's a question. Is it beneficial to study the astral projection course along with the learnings in this chapter? I wouldn't. I would do one at a time. There's no, again, do you. You do you. I don't like to put restrictions on people. I don't like a lot of rules. But in my opinion, it's just too much is too much. And I like things to be very simple and focused and clear. We don't want to oversimplify things, but we want to simplify them as much as possible so that complexity isn't clouding our abilities. So I like to get things as clear as I possibly can. And I think in a witch's primer, if you just focus on that for 18 weeks, I know that sounds like a long time, then you've built an infrastructure. And so that if you want to go to one of my other courses, you already have an infrastructure built. Whereas if you start doing both things at once, in my opinion, it can dilute your efforts. But that you may not agree, and you may you may do fine doing both. So that's really up to you. But I would say wait. I would say wait and do the astral projection course after. All right, that was a good question though. Thank you for asking. I guess that's it on the question. So thank you so much for being here today. And I hope that you can make it to our premiere that is happening in 9 minutes. Thank you so much to the amazing moderators. Today we had Jennifer, Diane, and Honeypaw. And I hope you enjoy working with the Orb of Light. And if you haven't gotten on the Discord server or on our private Facebook group, we do welcome you there, especially if you have questions or things that you want to share, or you want to be a support system for other people that are having questions. Just because I'm teaching this class doesn't mean that I know everything. A lot of times, people will get a much better answer from one of the other students or people, graduates of this course than whatever I could give, because they have their own unique perspective. And that's why I like these discussion groups, because you learn that wisdom is very, very prevalent amongst these people. lot of wise people in our groups, and I'm very grateful for that. Very humbled. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you all, I hope, over on the premiere, and if not, I hope to see you again for lesson number 5 next week. Until then, blessed be.